Alright guys, we're going to do something a little bit new with new releases. Today I want to talk to you about DC, Dark Knight's Metal, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman on a road trip, Trinity Crisis, whatever it's called. It's the latest part of the Death Metal event. And I want to talk to you about that and my reaction to the overall reveal at the end of this and why it doesn't truly make sense with DC continuity right now, but regardless, I'm excited. At the end of that discussion, I also want to explain to you why we're no longer doing single issue complete stories. We had an original reason for it, but then it turns out that legally we should stop doing them anyway. And I'll explain all of that at the end of this whole thing. So, let's start off with talking about Death Metal, Trinity War, Trinity Crisis, whatever it is right now, the road trip. This issue is really interesting and it ties into the whole thing very well. It's one of my biggest complaints with DC and Marvel events when they make this side issue that is super important, but it's a side issue so that we don't have to give you too many issues. If you're wondering why they do this, most of these publishing houses don't want these 12-issue sprawling maxi series. They want you to see a 6-issue miniseries and know that that's what you're getting. They want you to look at issue 1 and go, oh, there's 6 issues and I only have to get 6. Then they put important things in these sidebars like Trinity War, the Trinity Crisis, Speed Crisis, and all the other side stuff. Like there was the whole origin of Batman Manhattan, explaining how the Batman Who Laughs got into a body of a Bruce Wayne who had the powers of the the powers of Dr. Manhattan. All of this stuff should be in the main book, but that's a separate argument for another day. If you want to know Marvel doing a very similar thing, Secret Empire, which is a super divisive series, I don't hate it, but the biggest MacGuffin is revealed in a side story, and I hate that. But that's a different video for another day. Today we're here to rant about the Superboy Prime reveal. Yes, if you had gotten this far in the video and you assumed I wasn't going to be spoiling things, then I don't know why you were watching this video. I've already talked about quite a few things that are spoiled. But we're going to talk about why this doesn't make sense and why I'm excited about it. Okay, so in this Death Metal comic book, basically, we have a Superman who has the anti-life equation in him, which is weakening him. We have Wonder Woman all decked out, looking awesome. We have Batman with a Black Lantern ring. And then side cohorts, such as Harley Quinn with a shaved head, a weakened Swamp Thing, Jonah Hex, the undead Black Lantern, still wearing his clothes from the 1800s, zombie that is tagging along for this adventure. Yes, that is what's going on right now. So they go in and they're going to go finally fight the Batman Who Laughs. They're going to figure out what's going on with his crisis energy, where he's getting it, what's going on, and what is going on with these worlds. The battle, we have a few things happen at the beginning of the book, the biggest of which is the supposed destruction of the Green. For the sake of the comic, it's pretty epic. Swamp Thing talks to the Green, says that we need one last push, one last amount of power. The Green gives up the last of its ability towards Swamp Thing, super empowering him into that version of Swamp Thing that has like the wooden crown and the wings, and he's just epic as hell. I love that version of Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is actually one of my favorite superheroes that you don't know about. I've got a long list of superheroes that you don't know about that I'm a huge fan of. That sounds like I just came up with a video title. Hey guys, these rants give me videos. This is how this works. Anyway, Swamp Thing moves forward. The confusion I have with this is they act like the Green is gone. And I've always thought of the Green as being the green. It's grass, trees, water even. No, that's the blue. But you know what I mean. Like it's the environment around you. So if the Green, the spirit of the Green is gone, because there's still trees, there's still swamp lands, they're in this book. It's not like the world died out, so I don't know. I've always thought of the Green as being like Mother Earth kind of a situation. I guess it's more of a spiritual energy. It dies, it's Swamp Thing in the Green, and I don't know what Scott Snyder's going to do with this. Maybe it is dead. Maybe it won't come back. Maybe, yeah, it most likely will. But anyway, it dies off, goes into Swamp Thing, superpowers him, and then we run into a bunch of evil Batmen again. Now, these are some of the cooler designs with no explanation. Since we're going to assume they're all a form of Wayne, but we have the original Wayne, which is like the first one is a scarecrow kind of guy who's got all of the memories and thoughts of the Arkham villains, which is awesome. We've also got like a Solomon Grundy one. I think they called him like Blue Monday or Black Monday or something like that. Like the names are a little weird, but one of my favorite ones, which I don't know why we didn't dive into, Batman's fighting against one in a giant suit, and he throws out some comment like, "Which Batman are you? Because I've fought so many evil Batmen, none of you can stop me at this point." And they respond with, "I'm not Bruce, I'm his mother." And then we see it's Martha Wayne piloting the ship, and we just see a stunned Batman, and then the fight continues. And I'm kind of like, I wish there was like some kind of trade-off there. I know they probably Scott Snyder probably had an idea for something, because otherwise why else would you use Martha Wayne? and it probably got cut from because this thing's already like 30 something pages long. It probably got cut, but I just feel like there's something that could have happened there other than, oh my God, it's my mom. You know what? That would have been epic. We just have Batman just, mommy? That would have been cool. I would have loved that. But we didn't get any of that. We just got the battle. That all wraps up. We see the Robin King, which is kind of cool. I love the design for this character. I love the idea behind the Robin King. But now seeing him in action, it was all right. I mean, the fight was cool and all. His whole thing was, I've got something in my belt to stop each and every one of you. Oh, Harley, you were the one to figure me out in my world. Once again, it was a lot of exposition for something I don't think we're ever going to get more of. I think that's my biggest complaint between DC Metal and Death Metal, is that we have all this exposition, all these backstories, all these characters' origins. They all sound amazing, and I feel like each and every one of them could be an amazing comic and actually flesh these out. But instead, it's almost like just a series of oh my God moments. Like, oh my God, the Robin King is awesome. Oh my God, that's Batman's mom. Oh my God, Swamp Thing is juiced up right now. And we get no real backstory behind any of it. That's not to say that that's bad or negative. There's so many oh my God moments in this series that I'm loving each and every one of them. But it just makes me want to know more information. It reminds me of another thing Scott Snyder did recently, The Last Night on Earth. He went through the entire world as it was destroyed, and we saw things like a Speed Force storm, and we saw Green Lantern babies, and we saw like a bunch of Superman robots. In the whole book, I'm loving every minute of it, but every time he introduced something, I just want more. How did the Green Lantern babies come to exist? How did the Speed Force, like what is going on in Barry's head in the Speed Force storm? And I feel like that's happening in Death Metal. There's just so many oh my God moments crammed into this book that none of them get to really be fleshed out properly. But at the same time, how would you even flesh them out? Like, this isn't a story about Martha Wayne as Batman in a bat suit. This isn't a story about souped up Swamp Thing. This isn't a story about Robin King. It's about the Trinity fighting against all these things. So I don't know, it's my complaint. I guess it's more of a nitpick that I just want more of these characters. I guess could you consider it a bad complaint if my complaint is I want more of this universe and these characters and what's happening? Either way, this leads us to the eventuality that the heroes find Barbados has been chained up. They blame him for what's going on. Using him and everything going on, they teleport to each of the crises. What we discover is that the Batman who laughs in the Batman-Hattan body has locked down multiple worlds at the Crisis. So we have Infinite Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Final Crisis. He's got worlds that are perpetually always doing these events, and that power is funneling to Perpetua to keep her empowered, which is how the world is the way it is now. Each of our heroes go to one of these worlds, and they see something doesn't look right, and they make a comment about it. At the very last world, we see the reveal of Superboy Prime. He is apparently the secret weapon that the Batman Who Laughs is using to keep these crisis events continually happening. He's the one doing it. That's the reveal, and we're stuck there. Now, first off, before I explain why I don't know what's going on with the Superboy Prime character, just so you know who he is, Superboy Prime is a character from the original Crisis. In the original Crisis, all the different versions of Superman and Batman all came together to fight against the Anti-Monitor. At the end of that whole thing, an older Superman, an older Lois Lane, Alexander Luthor, and Superboy all went into a paradise world, where they left the world to our Earth 1 versions of our superheroes. As the years went on, those guys in the paradise world felt that the heroes on Earth 1 were squandering their worlds. It was dark, it was edgy, people were killing other people, it wasn't cool, so they came back to fight against our heroes. This eventually turned into Superboy Prime basically being a deranged version of Kal-El who wants to just wipe out all the superheroes so that he can be the ultimate superhero, the proper superhero that he believes that he should be. Before New 52, he went through many, many adventures fighting against I think the Titans fought against him at one point. He became a Yellow Lantern. He was a constant villain that was used in constant rotation. He's also famously known for the Superboy Prime Punch. When he first broke free of the Paradise Realm, it's because he broke out of it with a punch. That punch rippled through, and DC used that as an excuse to do certain things, such as bringing back my favorite superhero, Red Hood. They brought him back to life using that punch. That's all been retconned out. So in New 52, Superboy Prime's been basically missing. Now he's showing back up here in Death Metal as this super villain, this super guy, the super secret weapon that the Batman Who Laughs is using. But there's a slight problem with this. Superboy Prime also just showed up in Shazam. And in Shazam issue number 14, we discovered that he also has a new power. So that Superboy in Shazam has the ability to punch the magic out of people. Now, if you don't know that much about Superman, he has two core weaknesses, kryptonite and magic. By being able to punch the magic out of the Shazam family, that nullifies one of the two weaknesses. The Shazam family does defeat Superboy Prime, and they bring him to the Hall of Justice to be put into jail, where he currently, in theory, resides. But at the same time, over here, Superboy Prime is now the guy being used by the Batman Who Laughs. Now, we're dealing with multiversal universes. We have like 50 versions of Superman. So it's a very, very easy answer to this, and just state that it is the other version of Superboy Prime. There's only two characters and families that cross the multiverse, and you should never have more than one, and that is Darkseid, Highfather, and their assorted elements. So Superboy Prime could just be another version of Superboy Prime. The reason I find this a bit weird is because Superboy Prime is already a multiversal character. So he's already from a different Earth. He's already broken his way into this Earth. He's already been removed by the New 52, brought back in over in Shazam. So I don't know, it's a weird situation. I'm excited that he's back because he's a super awesome villain, because he's an evil Superman in the main timeline. Everyone loves the Injustice Superman. No, Superboy Prime is better than that guy because he's just deranged. Injustice Superman at least has a purpose. No, this guy just wants to mess with everyone. But yeah, so that's the big reveal of Death Metal right now. Superboy Prime is back, and he's in his prime. Dylan, do like a sparkle on my teeth. No? No pun? Even the man of puns himself, Dan behind the camera, just shook his head at me. Do sparkle. Ding. Can you give me like a Superman curl too? Like it'll just like, whoosh. You're good with After Effects. All right, so yeah, that's it. I'm excited about this. I want to see what they're going to do with Superboy Prime. I'm curious if they're going to explain the Shazam appearance and this appearance, or if we're just going to be like, they're okay. You stay here. You stay here. You guys fight him. You guys fight him, and no one asks questions. Like if that's what we're going to do here, that'd be cool. So that's it. I said I would explain why we're changing up our format just a little. So if you care, cool. Here's the explanation as to why we didn't do a complete story on that Death Metal issue. If you don't care, thank you so much. Please consider subscribing to our channel. Every Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, I want to sit down here and just talk about the biggest books that I am stupidly excited about with you guys, and I want to get your opinions on it and start a discussion in our comments, hence these videos. So yes, please consider subscribing, please consider hitting that like button, and let me know if you like this format for talking about the new stuff that just came out. Now, here's why we're not doing complete stories anymore. I've been doing this channel for about 5-something years now, guys, okay? Well, very, very long time. We've literally worked together with DC. They have sent me many, many books. They've requested various things be covered. I have made complete story videos for their channels. Same thing with Marvel. We have less to do with Marvel, but we have gotten requests to do various things. Normally with Marvel, it's related to their video games and TV shows, but you get the point I'm making. As the years have gone on, the YouTube landscape for comic book videos has changed. Now, a lot of you guys have asked me, hey, I want to do similar style videos. How do you avoid copyright? We fall into a weird gray area. So the first year that I ever made this channel, I had no idea what I was doing. We started throwing in text in every panel, and it was more of a complete, just here's what's happening in the comic book. Marvel hit us up pretty early on with a copyright strike. Luckily, we were working through a company that worked through Disney that allowed us to get in touch with Marvel. Marvel said, oh, our bad. Here's what we want you to do if you're going to do this. And that was remove the text and reduce the amount of panels we use in the comic books. That created the complete story many of you know. We don't do text. We don't do every single panel. We do more of a synopsis, getting rid of some of the little meatier portions in the middle of the books. And that created those long form complete stories. And we did that for like 4 years. DC and Marvel both seemed perfectly happy with us. I'd say about last year sometime, other people in the comic book YouTube landscape started to create a rat race. They had decided to find ways to get the comic books and just rush out content as quick as possible. Now, at first I was against that because one rule that was never put in place with Marvel, and we never discussed it with DC, was an actual timetable. Early on, I used to wait 2 weeks for a comic book to come out, and the rule was we would wait 2 weeks or till the next issue dropped. So if you remember in the early days, you would all be like, Benny, you're late. That was all intentional because I always felt that if we rush a comic out day one, that is our biggest chance at hurting the industry. I've never wanted to hurt the industry that has literally given me a career talking about comic books. So I always wanted to avoid doing anything I felt would hurt the industry. Waiting 2 weeks, waiting an additional month always seemed okay because the people who were going to rush out and buy the comic did so. So we always waited. Well, about a year and a half ago from this point on, other people in the world started to all race the comics out. Wednesday morning, everyone would have a video out on the latest hot topic stuff. Full panels, full text, the whole 9 yards. Here's the comic, we don't care. And I didn't do it at first. I was like, I'm gonna keep to my system. My system works, I'm happy. I get to do my job very relaxed. I get to enjoy my comic books. I get to enjoy what I'm doing. But as time went on, that did directly affect our comic book channel. It hurt our views. YouTube was making changes. So the other channels were getting all those upfront views. YouTube in response bumped us down on the priority list. So as there seemed to be no ramifications from DC, Marvel, or other companies, and every other channel was doing it, we fell in line doing that same thing. We started to create single issue complete stories. Now, the problem with those is YouTube also has a system where you want your videos to be over 10 minutes if possible. There's 2 reasons for that. One, everyone likes to go over 10 minutes gives you more ads. It doesn't, it doesn't. If you go over 10 minutes, you have the ability to put in a mid-roll in there. That's where the whole ad thing comes in, okay? But also going over 10 minutes gives you more watch time, and more watch time puts you back in the algorithm. So what it became was a race of trying to see how quickly we can get a comic book out and trying to get it over 10 minutes. Now, that ended up being, we started to put more into these single issues than I was happy with. We started to put more and more stuff into them all. And to the point where it was less of a synopsis and more of a full recap of the story. But once again, DC and Marvel didn't seem to have an issue with that. So we just started doing it. That created a lot of stress for me, the team, and everyone involved. When the pandemic initially hit in March, we stopped doing all those day one releases. And we started to relax. We started to have our mornings back. We were able to sit down and read our comics. It was a lot of fun for us. Back in June, July, when pandemic was kind of resolving in terms of the comic book industry, we started to get comic books again. We were like, okay, well, I guess that means that we need to get back to doing our stuff. So we started doing Tuesday launches for DC. We did a couple for Marvel. I did Empire and things like that. For those who are wondering why we have done so much DC recently, quick rundown how analytics work. The casuals who don't read comics at your comic book store, they only know of DC and Marvel based on a movie, video game, or news in that fashion. Ever since Spider-Man, Marvel has been mostly quiet on that front. We haven't had any video games. The TV shows kind of all went to the wayside because they were prepping for the Disney Plus, all that stuff. That's why you've seen mostly DC, because DC has been making comic books that have actually hit headlines in the casual world. Zombies, Injustice, things like that. That's the biggest reason. And then DC also came back first. Anyway, so we did it with Marvel for Empire. We did it with DC. Now, at the end of August, we did a promotion with Fandom for Warner Brothers. And a day after that, we got our first copyright strike ever from Warner Brothers. Not DC, Warner Brothers. I started going back and forth at DC on various emails trying to figure out what's going on. Because it wasn't a copyright strike with any clear reason, purpose, or anything. There was nothing behind it. They didn't tell us what they wanted or didn't want. And many of you have asked what happened to those deceased videos. That's what happened to those deceased videos. No one at DC knows the actual reason why this happened. And from the looks of things, it basically looks like some intern at WB just hit a button on a couple videos and then moved on. Because they haven't done anything super negative to the channel. This is bad in the end if it doesn't go away. DC is already working on getting that fixed because they don't intend on doing anything. But while this was happening, it got me to evaluate one thing. Once we got the strikes from Warner Brothers, before I got in touch with DC and knew that this was kind of a mix-up and no one knew what was going on, there was a brief moment in my head. And that moment was that this was over, that Comicstorian was done, that Warner Brothers was just done with us, Marvel was done with us, and I could quit. And I was relieved. I was relieved that I would no longer have to deal with the stress of rushing out on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I was relieved that I no longer had to super focus, narrow in on things. I was relieved that I wouldn't have to deal with the staff and the stress that came out of all this. I was relieved that Comicstorian was going to end. And that got me thinking, why was I relieved? It's because reading comics wasn't fun for me anymore. Every Tuesday, I was blitzing down comics, ignoring the thing that I enjoy the most, the artwork, so that I can read it in a hurry, give it to a writer writes it, and we rush it out. I wasn't enjoying these any longer at all. And so what I decided before hearing from DC and WB was that we were going to stop day one releases. I'm going to go back to the way I used to do things a year to 2 years ago, which is we wait for 2 to 3 issues and we give you a nice, beefy video that I'm proud of and I was able to take my time with. And that's what you're getting from now on. Right after I tweeted out and made all those decisions, DC responded with, you may have been putting too much in your videos recently, revealing too much of the story. So it seems like we probably shouldn't be doing those day one videos at all anyway. So that's why from this point forward, you're gonna get these style videos. So let me know if you like these or dislike these. Dan is signaling that I'm at my last minute on the camera. So what that means is I need to know if you like these and if it makes sense to you. No, DC is not mad at me. No, Marvel's not mad at me. DC doesn't even know why these strikes exist, and we're still working on getting those fixed. But as it stands, we are going to be doing a lot more beefier stories, 2 to 6 issues, depending on if we need to break it up or not, but you will not be getting any single issues from us unless it makes sense. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Do you like this idea? Do you dislike this idea? Are you just not gonna watch videos anymore? Either way, I'm enjoying myself and I'm enjoying my comics again, which is why I was able to get excited about doing this, because I enjoyed reading it. I was actually shocked. The artwork was amazing in this book. And that is this video. That is it. All right, I'm gonna make one about Flash now, because oh my God, Reverse Flash!